Hello, welcome to my kitchen here at Trails N62. We're going to be doing some Mongolian beef today, and that's going to include some spices, some garlic, some water chestnuts, some bamboo shoots, some oyster sauce, and several different things. First thing we do is we start off with our beef. Now, the recipe actually calls for top sirloin, but I use what I can get, and I happen to be able to get some skirt steak on sale, so I'm going to use the skirt steak. Now what you do first is you slice your steak up, slice your meat up. You can do it in cubes. It says to do it in slices, so I've sliced mine up into slices, and the steak, it says you do about 1/8 of an inch, and that's pretty thin when you go to canning. So I made mine a little thicker, about 1/4 to 1/2 inch maybe thick slices, because once you can it, the meat is going to get tender anyway. And so if it's sliced too thin, it's just going to break up to nothing. So I sliced it about 1/4 to 1/2 inch thick, cut it in slices. I did them about, well, I did them about, I averaged about 3-4 inches long, 4 inches long, something like that. And I'll put them in the jars. Now I start off with 3 pounds of meat. And like I said, you can use whatever kind of meat you want to, because it's going to be canned. In the regular recipe, you would brown this meat on a skillet, and just like you would any Chinese stir-fry it kind of thing. But we're going to just cook it all together in the jars. So I'm not going to brown it, because I've found when you pre-cook meat and then put it in the jar, it does come out a little bit dry when you eat it. For me, for my taste. You might want to brown it yourself. That's fine if you want to brown it. I mix with the 3 pounds of meat. I put in 3 tablespoons of minced garlic. And I use 1.5 teaspoons of crushed red peppers. If you don't want that much red pepper, cut that down. You might only want 3/4 of a teaspoon in there. You might only want 1/2 teaspoon. But we put it all together in a bowl, and then we take it and we'll mix it up by hand with that much. We'll use some more minced garlic, but for right now, it's 3 tablespoons of minced garlic. I use 1.5 teaspoons of crushed red peppers, mixed it with my 3 pound of meat, and I'll mix it up by hand, and then I will put that in the jars first. And this will do about 7 pints. So what I've done is I've taken my 3 pounds of meat, I've mixed it up with my crushed red peppers and 3 tablespoons of minced garlic, and I divided it out evenly among the 7 pints. Now this recipe calls for a certain amount, and it's one of those things where you just have to kind of eyeball it. They're not all going to be exactly the same. If you want to divide it out as to how many pounds you put in each, or how many ounces you put into each jar and that sort of thing, you feel free to go right ahead. I just eyeball it and just kind of divide it up and put it in that way. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in some bamboo shoots and some water chestnuts. And what I'll do is I'll take 2 of each. They're 8-ounce cans of bamboo shoots. And water chestnuts. And I will just divide those up evenly among the 7 pints. Now next, in a pan, we're going to combine the other ingredients. And it's going to start off with 3/4 of a cup of oyster sauce, which is just about one of these 7-ounce bottles of oyster sauce. Is about as 3/4 cups. So we'll put 3/4 cups of oyster sauce in there. And if you can't find oyster sauce or you don't have oyster sauce, you can always use substitute teriyaki sauce. That's just a pointer. So I put a little teriyaki sauce in this bottle just so I could clean it out better, because oyster sauce is very thick. Then we're going to add 3 more tablespoons of garlic, minced garlic. We're going to add then 3/4 of a tablespoon of ground ginger. Now, you can use fresh ginger if you want. I just don't use fresh ginger. So I'm using ground ginger. I don't have any fresh ginger. I never buy it. So I'm using ground ginger. Either 3 tablespoons of fresh ginger chopped up, or as I use, 3/4 of a teaspoon of ground ginger. Then I'm going to add 1½ cups of chopped green onions. Six tablespoons of sugar. And then we're going to heat that up. And get it hot. So we're going to stir it up really good. And heat it up and get it hot. Get everything mixed up here. Get the sugar melted. Then we'll spoon this into our jars, and we're just going to divide it evenly between the jars. And we're going to leave an inch headspace. Now, I will say this recipe, I'm making it from an actual recipe, and I'm making it into a canning recipe here. So, the actual recipe calls for another can each of the bamboo shoots and the water chestnuts. So I may add some more of those. We'll see how far this sauce goes to filling those up. We'll have to debubble of it. The raw meat will make some of its own juices, so it will add some juices to it. But we just want to heat this up. Just kind of make it flow a little bit, get everything mixed together so it will pour easily, so we can dip it out and pour it easily in to the jars. Not a lot here, so we're going to divide this evenly up between the 7 jars. Again, this is, if you want to measure it, divide it evenly, you can, but as for me, I'm just going to eyeball it and just put in some in each jar. Alright, I did debubble these. Took my debubbler and stuck it down through there, kind of get the juices all the way down to the bottom. Like I said, the meat will generate more juice. So as you can see, there's a little bit more than an inch headspace, so I'm going to take another can of the water chestnuts and bamboo, and a can of the bamboo shoots, and kind of even them out through there and fill it up to 1 inch of headspace. So it did actually hold 3 of the cans of water chestnuts and 3 of the cans of bamboo shoots. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe the lids, and I'm going to use vinegar because I had the meat and the sauce and everything, and I was kind of sloppy too. But use vinegar to wipe it off. That helps cut through the grease of the meat and everything. Now, I have my lids. I turn my water on, boil my water on the stove, turn it off, and then I put my lids in. They say you don't have to do that with the new lids, and I did read something recently that said the reason why was because of the material that they were made out of. It's not rubber like it used to be. It's a silicone type thing, I think, or something like that. And they say, what I read, now I've never had any problem with it. Occasionally I get one that doesn't seal. But they say that the acid from the vinegar is what may keep those from sealing when you wipe your rims with vinegar. So, and of course I always do this anyway after I wipe it with vinegar. Then I'll take a dry towel and I'll run a dry towel around it because I want it to be dry when I put those on. So if you do that, you're wiping off any excess vinegar, and you won't have that acid of the vinegar getting in onto your lids. So, or you can just do it like the new ones say, don't have to heat them up. That's strictly up to you. I've always done it this way. I've never had any problem with it, even with these new lids, but that's all right. I always wipe my vinegar off. So there we go. Now I'll put the lids on, and I think probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to do these in my electric canner, mainly because I don't have to watch it so close. I could do them all in my big canner all at once, but I'll do 4 of them in the canner, and then I'll do 3 of them and do it that way. Yeah, it'd take a little longer maybe, but maybe not, but it'll be more fun for me because I won't have to pay so close attention to it. Alright, lids on. Now the other thing about this is these jars are not hot. The liquid was warm when I put it in there and heated up, but it wasn't hot. So these are not warm. They're not cold. The meat was cold, but when I put that warm liquid in there, not hot liquid, not boiling liquid, I didn't want to break my jars. The meat was cold. So I will put warm water in my canner. It won't be scalding hot water, but it'll be almost hot water because that'll help it to heat up easier and quicker. And I'll put my rims on finger tight. Remember I left 1-inch headspace. And there we go. And we'll all see how this turns out. I'll put them in my canner. And there we have our 7 pints of Mongolian beef. Now, to eat this, like a lot of these Chinese meal in a jar one dishes, you heat some rice up, make some rice, and you serve it over rice. I usually use about 1/3 cup of dehydrated rice, and I make that. It probably comes out to about 1/2 cup of cooked rice per pint, and that's what I use. You can put more rice in it if you want to. If you want to take one of these pints, split it between 2 people, maybe do a cup of rice. So, and I'm going to put mine over, I'll use 1/3 cup of dehydrated rice. I'll rehydrate it, and I'll put it in, heat it up, and eat it that way. Now for mine, using dehydrated rice, I use equal portions of my dehydrated rice with water. I used 1/3 cup of water, 1/3 cup of rice. I microwave it for 3 minutes. It needs a little bit longer in order to fully cook or to fully rehydrate in there, but I do it for 3 minutes, and then I add my food to it, my product to it here, and then I'll mix it up and I'll heat it up in the microwave. If you're using regular rice, you just make your rice, heat this up on the stove, and then put it on top of your rice. I like to do it this way and mix it up, heat it up a little more, and that kind of gets some of the juices into the rice. Gives it a better flavor. And so I'll heat this up for a couple more minutes to get everything good and hot. Might take 3 minutes, might take 4 minutes, just till I get it nice and hot. And there you have it, Mongolian beef, ready to eat. So until next time, from my house to your house, from my kitchen to your kitchen, God bless.